41, man. Ooh, la. Can you
Happy
imagine you?
Wednesday. We are live.
Can you just
Happy
41?
Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. You are tuned in, tapped into transitions, life lessons, and legacy. I am Hyacinth Henderson, joined by my father, Mr. Robert Henderson Jr.,
Yes,
certified financial planner, founder, president, and CEO of the Henderson Financial Group.
that's me.
I
That's
introduced you
eyes me.
today.
That's right. You introduced me. Okay,
I
good,
know.
good. Beautiful dress. I love that with your
Thank
little red
you.
lipstick and your
Thank
little melanin.
you.
You man, I tell you,
My
that's my
melanin is
daughter.
popping.
I
Thank you.
love it.
Thank
I
you.
love it. Now today we got a great show lined up
Mm-hmm.
for you today because one of my topics that I
Mm-hmm.
really like and on
Transitions.
transitions.
Mm-hmm.
Today on Wednesday, we talk about transitions. Really, it's about the mind, dealing with the mind, because the mind is the foundation of what happens in your life. You have to have a good mind. What are you thinking? Because it tells a lot about your the effects of your life. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, the mind deals with the causes, and the effects is the results, what you see. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to deal with the mind because a lot of people want to be rich and wealthy, but you got to deal with the causes, and the causes come in the invisible. It's things you can't see, which is the mind. So on Wednesday we deal with the mind. We call it transitions. Transition meaning to change,
Yeah.
to transit. Okay, because you wherever you are right now, if you want more, you got to change. You got to change. You cannot keep doing the same thing that you did yesterday or yesteryears and expect to get something different. So you got to trans. So that's why this is called on Wednesdays. We do a show called Transitions, and it's mine. Even though we're a certified financial planning firm, full service, we deal with money, real estate, mortgages, insurance, all that kind of stuff. But we got to get you prepared. And dealing with the mind is the foundation. You like that, daughter?
I love it.
Good.
Very good. Yeah, he might be running a little bit behind Mario.
Mario, we'll be on time, Mario. Good,
He'll be
brother.
on time. He'll rush us off of here. Okay. So today's topic is, are you using your imagination?
Yes.
This is such an interesting topic. I'm glad that you let me pick the topic today
Yes.
because you didn't have a topic, but I'm glad that we're here. dig.
I always have topics.
Because
Anna Dupree, don't I? She knows.
imagination is so important, and I believe that most people don't realize how powerful their imagination is.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Most people don't even tap into it, because it kind of lose it as you get older. You start thinking an imagination is just for kids.
What do you think imagination is? When you hear the word imagination, and are you using your imagination, what comes to mind for you?
I think future. I think what could be. I think I think development. I think growth. I think endless possibilities.
When I hear the phrase, are you using your imagination, right after that the subtitle I hear is, or are you stuck, or are you just taking what they give you? Are you just
You
receiving
say they, you mean the system, the
the
world.
right? Are you using your imagination, or are you just lost in the sauce? That's really what I hear. So that would be the subtitle, if we have room for a subtitle. And so we want you to think about that, because oftentimes people are experiencing Groundhog Day,
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing over and over and over again. And they don't even realize that you can literally use your mind, use your imagination to imagine a new life, imagine a new reality, and then take the action, because that's very important, to manifest that reality.
Yes, but we talk about how powerful imagination is and how
Mhm.
you using it. The system that we live in, that we've been, brainwashed and conditioned. One of its goals have been since we were, born, is to basically to kill our imagination. The formal education, structured education,
Mhm.
really, really stifles one's imagination because you stay in a box. Certain tests, standardized tests, put you in a box. What is this? What it should be?
Mhm.
Is the glass half empty or half full?
Mhm.
It really boxes you in. And the more formal education that you seek and achieve, it really kills a lot of that free imagination,
Mhm.
because imagination is not so logical. It's not so much 1+1 = 2. Imagine it could be 3. You know what I mean? It's like, how dare you? So the formalness and what we've been conditioned is to, go to school, go to college, get a job working for someone, get married, have, 2.3,
2.5 children.
2.5 children, get a
Mhm.
dog,
Mhm.
and retire.
Mhm.
And even tell us, retire at age 65 or 62 or whatever. And that right there, that's a blueprint for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then people are not happy. So imagination, unknowingly, we have allowed that to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's something.
And it's being intentionally
Yes.
destroyed. So by the powers that be, they're intentionally putting things out there, and even so much so in the food that we eat. But that's a whole topic for a different day. But your imagination is being intentionally destroyed. Let me give you an example of how powerful imagination is. So I'm not sure if many of you know the story of, do you remember the Five and Dime store?
Yes, of course I do.
Right. So it was phasing out by the time I was born and around. The Five and Dime store, I don't know if you all realize, drop a 1 in the comment if you remember the Five and Dime store. This is before we had Walmart, before we had Target and all these other stores. The Five and Dime store was born from an employee, a worker at a grocery store at that time, or a store back in that time. And he suggested to the manager that they set up a table where everything was 5 cents.
Mhm.
And so they set up the table where everything was 5 cents, and it was a success. Everything on that table sold.
Mhm.
And so because it sold, the employee suggested to the manager owner, why don't we do this more often? Why don't we implement this? And the owner said no. And so he quit his job and he took $350 and he started his own five store. It eventually grew to the Five and Dime, but he started his own store where everything was a nickel. And he duplicated it, and then it grew and grew and grew. So him using his imagination, imagining that, yes, the store has been operating this way for all this time, but if you use your imagination, and what would happen if we did this on a regular basis?
Yes.
What would happen? And so since he didn't believe, then he took that idea and he ran with it.
And hence the Dollar General, Dollar Store,
Exactly.
Dollar Tree.
And that's how that was born as well.
That whole concept,
Exactly.
out of the box, because that's imagination.
Mhm.
We all know the story of Disney, with a mice. Can you believe that?
That's why Disney World is one of my most favorite places on earth.
That's a La La Land, make believe, and that's full of imagination where you can go, the whole Cinderella. It's all of that, Beauty and the Beast, all of this stuff.
Everything.
That's just La La Land imagination has made trillions of dollars.
Yeah, but you know what? When you say like La La Land, it sounds like da 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 da, right? And most people view imagination as that, because we've all heard, why are you in La La Land? Come back to reality.
Yes.
So how do we dream? How do we expand if people are often telling us, and sometimes we tell each other and we tell ourselves, to come back to reality?
Yeah, because it's not norm, and anything that's not normal, traditional, we look as being, La La Land, or being, out. In other words, if our senses, if we can't compute it, if it's not logical to us, it hasn't been taught in school, it hadn't, it doesn't have boundaries, then it's out of limits, and it's out of space. So it's considered out there. That's what a La La Land, out there. It's not compressed.
So is it safe to say it's cool to be in La La Land? It's cool to daydream? What are we telling children? Because oftentimes adults will tell children, snap out of it.
Stop daydreaming.
Stop daydreaming. What are you talking about? You got to be serious. You got to do your homework. You got to do all this. How dare you want some free time? How dare you want to go play? How dare you want to imagine and just explore? Especially nowadays, you got to have these rigorous schedules.
Yes. But the developers of the world, the creators who are creating new stuff, they actually live in La La Land.
1000%.
They live in things that you cannot see right now, but they can imagine it happening. You know what I mean? I mean, just like, all of technology is considered La La Land.
Yeah, everything starts with a thought.
Right.
And in order to nurture that thought, you need to use your imagination.
Yes. All buildings.
Every single thing.
Design.
Do you remember back in the days, what's this? This may have been in the 80s or 90s, when you had the first cell phone, the big block phone. Do you still have that somewhere?
Yeah, I still have that.
Can you bring it tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll bring it.
Okay. Do you remember when you had that big block phone? It was like a car phone.
Yeah,
right?
like a walkie-talkie.
And it was bigger than that. That's what cell phones were.
Right.
And now we have these little small phones.
They're gonna get smaller, and the ones that we have now, the smartphones now, 10, 20 years from now, our kids are gonna say, what is
Exactly.
that?
I was thinking about that today.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That is so old
Yeah.
fashioned.
Yeah.
And that gives you a hint
Yeah.
of what's to come.
Yeah.
So whatever you're thinking right now ain't it. It really isn't. And that's why you can't afford to not have an imagination if you want to keep pace or if you want to go and grow and develop. You have to open yourself up to change. And it starts with you. You become stagnant. You don't grow if you don't open yourself up to new beginnings, to wondering, to imagining what could be. And it starts with you yourself. And the system has really done a great job on hindering us and making us think this is it, or making you feel that, if you don't have this, if you weren't born on this side of the tracks, or if this the color of your skin, then there's no more for you. And that's just not true, because that's a lot of things that are going on, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your race, your gender. People are using their imagination to create tomorrow, the future. And a lot of us are stuck in a zone thinking that this is it. A lot of us are spectators. But if you really want to get involved, then all of us has this power to create and imagine. No one has the the dibs on who can imagine and who cannot. It's free. Isn't that something?
It's open. It's open if you believe, and if you believe in yourself, right? And
Yes.
that in itself can be a challenge, because oftentimes people don't believe in themselves. They've been conditioned not to believe in themselves. But I want to go back to you saying, like, the phones that we have now. 20 years from now, the kids are going to say, y'all used to use those as cell phones, or 30 years from now, whatever the case may be, it's going to be something that's like considered ancient. I had a similar thought earlier today, and I was thinking, what a wonderful time to be alive. Because since we know and we can look back, like, I feel like at 41, I'm in such a beautiful space where I can see the past and I can see the future, and I can connect the dots. So before, I was kind of just existing, like, la la la, like, okay, don't do drugs, this is whatever. But now I'm like, holy smack, like, this is really how this happens, especially as I witness all of the development and how Miami is changing. Right. And so it reminds me of the old Miami when I see the pictures of Miami Vice and what South Beach used to look like. And I'm like, I'm living that right now. So for those of you who are listening, when we ask you, are you using your imagination? And when I say it's such a beautiful time to be alive, because as things are crumbling, as things are changing, as things are shifting, as what we have been comfortable with for the past 40 years, 30 years, however long period of time, because humans, we like comfort. So the things that are changing, you can choose to be on the side of protest, like, no, I want this back, this is all wrong, all these things. Or you can use your imagination and say, well, you know what? I remember the first cell phone was a big old block. I remember, check this out. I remember the TVs that we used to have to use the pliers when the knob came off to turn.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And it seems like it was just yesterday. I remember Granny having the actual phone that you used to have to turn.
Rotaries,
so
right.
The rotary phone. So for those of you who are out here listening, when we ask you, are you using your imagination? We're asking you not just to, like, use it for child's play, but use your imagination and imagine where you could be in the next 5, 10, 15 years. The fact that everything is changing right now puts you at a place where you can do something.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful place to be. Am I the only one excited about this?
No, there are a lot of us that are very excited.
Okay.
The ones that are in tune, to it. And it makes us feel like, oh man, the future really is bright when you think about the possibilities and where we're headed, But you have to decide if you're going to be part of the developer or if you're going to be just a spectator. A lot of people are just spectators. I think when we talk about, are you using your imagination, and some people who are not, and I understand why they're not, because sight, most people only believe in that which they can see right now.
I agree.
And that is an imagination killer. So only depending on your sight and what you can see right now, it stunts your growth, because all creation, all development happens with a thought, and it's invisible. And then what you do, your actions bring it to the realm where you can see
3D.
it.
Yeah.
But it always starts where you cannot see. Now, there's a lot of evidence of that. I mean, even if you want to bake a cake, if you say, listen, let's bake a cake. If I say that, there's no cake right here.
Mm-hmm.
But your action is going to get the ingredients, everything you need to, and start putting it into action and put it into the oven. And then in the next hour, bam,
Mm-hmm.
it appears. That's using your imagination. It comes from a thought. You didn't see it, but now it appears and like, bam, there's the cake. When you get accustomed to creating and taking actions and doing that, you start developing that muscle to deal with something that wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you could make it there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're lazy and just being a spectator, you're not going to ever do that. You're just going to wait for the cake to come
Right. And wonder why you don't have any cake.
and spend your money to eat the cake.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And now you're just a consumer instead of a developer.
And sometimes you don't even have money they don't even have the money to eat the cake. And then they're saying the system is rigged because they don't give me any cake.
That's true.
So we can go several layers deep with this. So the people who are listening, those of you who are out here watching, ask yourself, in what areas of your life are you playing the role of a spectator? And I say playing the role of a spectator instead of identifying you as a spectator, because it's just a role. You can choose right now, in 60 seconds, tomorrow, next week. You know what? I don't want to be a spectator no more.
Imagination.
I want out. I want to now be a doer. I want to now be a producer and not just a consumer. So for those of you who you're playing the role of the spectator, another way to say that is you're playing the role of victim. This is happening to me. They did this. They didn't let me do this. I'm stuck in this job. I'm stuck in this marriage. I'm stuck with these kids. Okay, maybe you are stuck with your kids.
Yeah, you are. It came out of your body.
But you get what I was saying. Like you play the role as victim, like this is how it was always done. So as you're listening to this, and we give you examples about how the five and dime store was birthed, how that came about. We give you examples when I give you the visual of the old school cell phones, of the old school televisions in black and white. When we were watching those black and white TVs standing on that little stand, and you had to turn it with the knob or pliers, there is no way I thought in my mind that we would be watching now flat screen television.
Yeah.
It was the furthest thing from my mind, but somebody else was thinking about it.
Yeah, and the flat screens, we're not just going to stop here at the flat
Yeah,
screen.
they're holographic.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're going to be looking at this desk like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's gonna be
holographic.
like,
You want to watch TV snapping? Okay.
right,
here's
just
it.
move it
Yeah.
and just watch TV. Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing?
Yeah.
They're working on that right now.
Right.
While people are just sleeping and watching Netflix,
Yeah.
there are people, there's a whole society of different industries that are working on the future to come. That's what they live and breathe and think about. Some people just feast on the here and now, but it depends on where you want to be. That imagination is where the action is, because if you're imagining, that means that you have to be action oriented. In other words, just to imagine something is dead. Every imagination, in order for it to come true, it has to be backed up with action. The example you gave about the guy with the five and dime store. I mean, when he said, hey, why don't we do this? And the store manager didn't want to do it. He actually quit his job and he stopped. But that was action.
He took the
His
action.
thoughts was followed by action to actually reveal and make his imagination come true. So the key to imagination is not just dreaming or just saying, hey, what if? You have to imagine yourself being the person you want to be. But then it has to follow by action. You really have to do what is necessary in order to bring it to fruition. Isn't that something?
This is why your word is so important. When you say you're going to do something, do it.
Yes.
It's so, and people look at this like this is a small thing. Oh, I said I was going to do this. Or I said I was going to change the oil. Or I said, oh, no, I'll get to it. But from a larger scale, it's showing people who you are.
Yes.
When you don't do what you said you were going to do. And it's not only showing people who you are, it's also showing you yourself why you haven't achieved the reality. And I wanted to say goals, but why you haven't achieved the goals and why you aren't living the reality that you imagined or that you desire. Because you're right. People can sit around all day and say, one day I'm going to be this. One day I'm going to be that. One day, ooh, that's me. I remember when I was married, my husband at the time, he used to play the lotto. He used to play the lotto like on a regular basis. And I found myself, we would lay in the bed and talk about like if the jackpot was 500 million, what we were going to do.
No kidding.
And I had to come out of that. I was like, this is crazy.
God. Thank God.
I was like, but it was just so subtle because it was something that he would go do. And he would just come home and we would talk about it. And I had to say, this is not right. This is not the best use of my time. And so I'm sharing that example because a lot of people, and some of you out here listening, you may daydream, but you never take action.
Action does it.
Yeah.
Action really does it. I mean, I was talking to a guy who was referred to us by someone else, and this guy, he doesn't have a lot right now. I mean, he makes a nice sum of money annually, but he says that his budgeting, he just spends. So he came to us for budgeting to help him to, really get his financial house in order. He had a lot of dreams. He wants to buy commercial property. He wants to do, different type of investments. He really had, and open a business. He had a whole lot of, his imagination was good. So when we sat down and said, okay, listen, why don't we put this to action? And we went over his budget, looked over his cash flow, and we seen he had about $2,000 extra every month. So we said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take at least $1,200 and automatic put it in a savings so we can start building up. That $1,200 a month is like $14,000 a year. That's your foundation. And then we're going to do that for at least, 3 years. And I want it to become habit forming, habitual, where you just know,
Did he do it?
He was scared out of his wits. He said, oh my God, Mr. Henderson, I can't do that. I said, why? You have excess cash after you pay all your overhead expenses. He said, what if something happens? I'm afraid. I've never done that. I said, well, you got a lot of dreams. You got to follow by action. You coming to us and we see, now we want you to do it. And he just says, no, I can't do that.
I can't do it. And you know what? When he and other people say, what if something happens? I always remind them, right now you have nothing.
Nothing.
And so what if something happens?
That's right.
And right now you have nothing. And so if something happens while you have nothing, how you going to get something? You're going to have to, the average person goes into debt, credit cards, and then you're in this cycle stuck into debt. So yeah, it's interesting. He couldn't see it.
No, and what's amazing to me is, I think that we all have a duty to first love ourselves. I just do. I think if you love yourself, I think then that love, then you can love others. So I think that I just think that is, I mean, I believe if you start taking care of yourself, you can take care of somebody else because you have training on taking care of something because you started mastering yourself. There's a saying that says, how are you going to master others when you can't master yourself? You have to be able to demonstrate. That's the same. It's the same reason why if you're on an airline, they say if the plane start losing altitude, they tell a parent and you with a child, put the mask on your face first. Now, heart-wise, you want to cover your child. But if you cover your child and give the child oxygen and you become unconscious, the child is left by themselves with no guidance. So first you need to be strong. And then once you're strong, then you go. So when I look at financial planning and things that we do in terms of even imagination and taking actions, you always first have to strengthen your mind and yourself. If you refuse to love yourself and pay yourself first before you pay, the car dealer, before you pay, the weekend spending, before you pay all this, having a good time and dining out and, hanging out, the good times, there's no gooder time than you strengthening yourself. You got to pay yourself. A lot of people don't pay themselves. They pay everybody else, but they don't pay themselves. They look at it as a bill. They're like, no, I want to do this, do that. And if something's left over, then I'm going to spend it and go out shopping and have a good time. You're paying the merchant. So this guy here, and a lot of people come to us and they say they want, but they don't have an agreement. What I mean by an agreement comes when you have a thought and a belief and an imagination, but you have to agree. Your thoughts and your actions have to align.
They're out of alignment.
They're out of alignment. So it has to be an agreement. It has to be a handshake within yourself. What you're thinking and what you're doing have to come together. You can't be thinking this, but doing something else. And I want you to ask yourself, that's the number one problem of most people. They don't have an agreement within their own self. Talking about with you, they don't have an agreement with their own self. This is, listen, I'm not going to eat chocolate cake this week. That's what they say. As soon as chocolate cake come, they go, just this one time.
Right. They start justifying it.
Yeah. justifying, well, I only live once.
Mm-hmm.
All this kind of stuff that, so using your imagination to get really down to it, you got to strengthen yourself. And like I said, this guy, he really needs help because he's spending $2,000 just to have a good time. He says he's making himself free, but he don't have nothing saved.
And he's not the only one.
And he has a wife and children.
Well, and he's not the only client in that too, right?
No.
So he's not alone doing this. He's not the only client. And so where what I see is he isn't using his imagination effectively to imagine what his future is going to look like.
No, but he's saying this is what he wants. He wants this, he wants that, he wants this, and he wants
not
that.
Effectively, because you can want it, but and especially as the head, as the man, right? So I don't care if y'all believe the man is the head or not, right? But as the head, you need to have plans for your family. You need to lay a foundation. As the head, you need to be able to say, okay, this is how we're planning. This is the table that I'm preparing for my wife, my children. I am the head. I am the provider. I am the protector. And you can't see it and you have nothing right now.
Yeah, but a lot of people, like you just said, I've always, I was raised by my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother in my life was my head.
Mm-hmm.
And she made a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
For me,
mm-hmm.
I know there are a lot of people that says, the man is the head
mm-hmm.
and the woman follows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily condemn people because of their race or their gender.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Now, some people feel like the man
leads, woman follows.
I think that who have ideas in the situation, who's good at something, should lead.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
For you?
Yeah. And I know. In other words, if my wife knows how to build a house and I don't know how to build a house, I don't think because I am a man, I should go out there and try to design and build the house.
But zoom out a little bit more. Is she going to decide that she's going to come, honey, we're going to build a house? Is she making that? Is she leading the charge and saying, you know what, since I know how to build a house, I'm coming home and we're building a new house?
Well,
and you're going to say, because you know how to build a house, go ahead and build a house.
Well, if it's a good idea and I don't know how to build a house, I would say, honey, let's go build.
I think you're not being in reality right now. If you came home and your wife said, I am the builder. I took the class. I know how to build. We are going to build a house. What happens to the communication? What happens to, do we even need a house? What happens to, hey, baby, I think because you can build, you get to build a house?
No, all that's going into play. But if I'm with that,
you skip some, you said if you with that, but you skip some steps before we can even get to building.
No, I'm not. No. If she comes home and say, honey, I want a Rolls Royce, let's get a Rolls Royce or something, then I'm gonna say that makes no sense or whatever. Even if she come home and say, let's build a house, I'm gonna look and say, first of all, are the conditions are there, and then we'll have a conversation like why. But then if the conditions are there and everything lines up, and I that's a good idea, I won't spite her just because.
But it's two different things, right? But when you're going to sit there, you're going to take the lead, right? You're not going to just allow to say, because you can build, you can build. If the conditions are there, then we build. If the conditions aren't there and you know how to build the house, we ain't building.
See, the only reason why I'm saying it, Heinz, is because we have a lot of clients. We have a lot of clients, and we have a lot of clients that are married. A lot of times I see the wife yield and don't show her stuff because the man is not as sharp, is not as clever to me. But she yield because she says he is the husband, but he is going down the wrong way. But she wants to be respectful. She's following the biblical path. The man leads, but he is a cuckoo nut.
She picks wrong. She picked wrong. And understand this. I when I'm here speaking, I don't have any particular person in mind. This is going on the World Wide Web. I cannot shrink and minimize my words because I'm worried about somebody who I ain't even thinking about being offended. We're here to educate and teach people.
Right. Okay.
The reality is you married somebody who couldn't lead. You was out of order.
Okay, but you say she picked wrong.
Correct.
If more than 50% of marriages end in divorce because of money, sometimes even though you pick one, when life gives you lemons, you got to make lemonade. And it's working for them, even though she dummies herself down a little bit. Listen, and they've been married for 20 years. I look at it and say, oh my God, I'm looking at this woman. I know that he is making a bad decision. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And she's doing that since because the anatomy.
And that's okay. Listen, it's okay that if you picked wrong, I'm not telling you to divorce and you stick and stay and that's your thing. But we have to zoom out and talk about the foundation. Like the reality is we have choices to make.
So
And it comes from us being educated. So I get what you're saying. However, I still firmly believe that the man leads.
so give me your thoughts on the story of Harriet Tubman,
Mhm.
a little frail, 4 feet
Mhm.
tall black woman that wanted freedom. And
Mhm.
she had already made it to the promised land. Basically, she had made it up north. And when she got up north and she felt really bad in her love
Mhm.
for her mother and her family,
Mhm.
she actually went back down there into danger zone into the south to get them.
Mhm.
And when she told them, listen, I know the way. You all, if you want to be free, follow me.
Mhm.
She was a woman. Some of the men came and said, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
She pulled out a pistol and said, listen,
Mhm.
either you're going to listen to me,
Mhm.
you're not going back, I'm going to kill you.
Was she married to them?
No.
Okay, I'm
So-
talking about
so,
this whole thing
But
is.
you know her
Mhm.
husband, but
Mhm.
she was married too.
Mhm.
But her husband listened to her
Mhm.
and he came back also
Mhm.
with her. Now, he could have said, woman, you're not leading because of your anatomy, because you're female.
I think you're too zoomed in. You're zoomed in on who was equipped. What I'm saying is her and her husband, nowhere in history does it say her husband was against it and he stayed on the plantation or whatever the case may be. We can think that would like to think that they had a conversation or something happened and he was in support. But since you have the resources, since your strength is this, you have the mindset, then you go ahead. So I'm not talking about who's physically leading, but there needs to be a conversation, just like the example where we gave in a marriage. It doesn't matter what tools you have and what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you just out here wilding and I'm out here wilding because you strong in this area, you can do what you want to do. Well, that's not a marriage.
No, I understand, but see, how you see that when it comes to man and woman
Mm-hmm.
and physical or what's right or wrong,
Mm-hmm.
my belief
Mhm.
is I have to close my eyes and I have to take off. I have to deal in terms of spirit, in terms of truth,
Mm-hmm.
and truth can come from a man or a woman. I don't think, lead who God has given the
Mm-hmm.
information to. I think that's who we should, you should be able to, look at that and say, okay, I got it. I don't have, I'm not a male chauvinist and I'm not a female chauvinist. I am just who can play the drums and who can do it. I don't care if you black, white, fat, skinny, male or female. Let's get it done. That's the place where I come from. Now I do know
Mm-hmm.
that there are boundaries. People say, I just feel like you say, she married the wrong person. But now if she's hurting, if she's like, oh my God, he's so dumb and we're going down the wrong, then that's a different story. But if it's working, regardless of gender, I have to take off because I don't. I think we're more than just these bodies.
So in that example, like if they're making it work, if she's like, I can't show him all, I can't do this, so I have to yield or whatever the case. So we know it's not open the way she would ideally like it to be because we understand that there's some deficiencies there. And if she's making it work, then the question becomes when you have a daughter or a son, do you then advise them, hey, go down the path I went down where you just got to make it work? Or do you take my lessons and this is the order and the protocol so that you can pick better? So I don't want to get caught up in like the details. I want to zoom out. Even when you were speaking, I pictured a dance floor. I'm not saying that because the man leads, he's dancing on the dance floor himself by himself. You can't. In what do you call it, ballroom dancing, there's someone who's leading and there's someone. So when you picture it that way, when I say the man leads, I'm not excluding the woman. I'm not saying she may not have any strengths, she can't use her strengths and things like that. What I'm saying is he leads, they're in unison,
Well,
they're dancing together.
I understand. The only thing where I am is in pure truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is no color, there's no gender, there's no body.
Except that we have these human bodies and the physiological makeup of them we're wired away. So I understand, and above all, I understand the spiritual component and the soul component. Yes, but while we have these human bodies, we men and women are different, and they're wired certain ways.
No, that is absolute.
And we can't say, oh, because we're a spirit.
But in truth, I'm saying not in terms of anatomy, but
Mhm.
in terms of truth. I don't want to make a decision because of
Mhm.
a person is to take the job or to
Mhm.
lead because of a man or they're a woman. I
Mhm.
think who's supposed to lead or who's
Mhm.
supposed to make a decision or who capable of making the right decision is based on, the truth. Now you may say who's truth, but who has, especially someone who has proven, has a track record
Mhm.
to be successful in their decision making. I just think I think that should trump I shouldn't say that word, but I think that should negate basically
Gender. I
gender.
think leading. It sounds like we're getting a little mixed up
Yeah.
here, but gender leading doesn't actually mean doing. You can lead and not do it. Let's
True.
think about the hierarchy of a company, a business. The CEO, nothing goes nothing happens unless we run it past the CEO. That doesn't mean you actually do the work. Now, if I have an idea and we run something past the CEO and we say, hey, this is what we think, and you say, no, we're not doing that. It doesn't matter how good of idea I think it is. You the CEO.
Yeah, most CEOs do least work. Like most doctors do the least work.
And that's what I'm
The
saying.
assistants,
That
the
so you
nurses do all the
use
work.
that visual when I say the lead. It's the natural order of things. So let's go back to imagination.
So the imagination, the whole
Mhm.
premise of imagination
Mhm.
is it's dead unless you follow it with action.
Yeah.
You gotta have action. I mean, because I remember growing up being a little shorty, and me and my friends sitting on the corner on a little stoop there. We was like, 7 years old, and a car would come by and we'd go, "That's my car. That's my car." And no, that's my car. I called it first. That's my car.
Mhm.
And some people are still doing that, and they're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. That's my house. That's, and that's why a lot of people glorify entertainers and athletes,
Mhm.
people who have a lot of wealth, and they actually go and buy their perfume and try to mimic them and buy their sneakers and buy all that. They go buy $1,000 sneakers because that person who has, wealth is buying it, and it want to artificially makes them feel like they're wealthy, even though they ain't got a pot to piss in
or a window to throw it out.
or a window to throw it out. So that's imagination without action. What are you going to do about it? I mean, sometimes you see guys act, with in terms of imagination, actually physically fighting, want to fight over a basketball game and what you like this. Who's the best? Who's the best player? They don't even know you. That's imagination without no action. So I think that a lot of us, in terms of wealth, in terms of taking care of yourself and having an agreement with yourself, we all really have unlimited potential.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Limitless.
We all have unlimited potential. And it's not a mistake that we don't know that within ourselves. We have been programmed to not know that. And the best program you can put on a person is for a person to think they have not been programmed. In other words, genius is making someone act and behave the way you want them to act and behave without them knowing that you are making them act and behave like that. They think that they're doing it, or they wants or their needs is because of them. That's genius. That's how they say throwing a rock and hiding your hands. The system is designed to do that. When you can do that and make somebody want, if you can sit down and be watching TV and Kentucky Fried Chicken says, we're going to advertise 10 times in 1 hour. And in that area, we're going to see how our sales go up. And then you say, I feel like some fried
That's
chicken.
right. Your wife says, what do you want for dinner today, baby? Kentucky Fried Chicken.
And she says, why? He says, that's what I feel like.
I just feel it. I just want it.
He didn't say, because I keep seeing a done commercial.
Yeah.
He didn't say that.
Yeah.
He thinks it's his idea. And that's how we've been programmed, and we don't know it. That's the Lexus. That's the stuff that we don't need. The stuff. It really is. So the system looks at us not understanding how imagination, and definitely not taking any action to have an agreement with ourselves, how it works.
Yes. So use your imagination. Tap into your imagination. Terrence Jones is joining us on YouTube. Hey, Terrence, thank you for joining us. He says greetings back to you as well. Use your imagination. If you're just now joining us, make sure you go back and watch the replay. You can catch the replay on Facebook as well as YouTube. And we have Miss Dupree here. We have LJ Johnson here. I think Mario is here as well. And all right, thank you. We got to wrap up because you have an appointment.
Yeah, Mario. I know I got a 1:30 Mario, but boy, that
Yeah.
was getting it, man. We started getting into that gender and
Yeah, I love that.
That's kind of deep.
Gets the fire going. You know, I like deep. I like swimming in the deep end.
Yeah, you in a group. You really. I always say, I remember I did a show and I said that I think really life should start at age of 40. Like you're 41 right now. And how you saying some of the past and then how you are right now, how it's just coming together now. I remember doing a radio show saying, man, I think everybody should get a do-over at 40.
Yeah.
But because by the time from 18 to 40, if you done married the wrong woman, or if you went to jail, or you got on drugs, you got off. In other words, if the slate was being wiped clean by 40, man, you said that's the education.
Absolutely.
The first 40 years of your life, oh
Education.
my God.
Prerequisite.
Isn't that a prerequisite for the rest of your life?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're supposed to say, oh my God, especially if they take the felony off, you know what I mean? And wipe the stuff clean, and take all the bad decisions you made. And going on 40 to going on forward, you have a prerequisite. You went through a prerequisite. You studied, you really got education in life, and you know what not to do. You might have at 40, you might have studied the wrong career or study or whatever. Then you say at 40, everything wipes clean, the slate wipes clean, you cannot be judged. Now start living.
Only if you're open-minded, though, because some people, they get there and when they reach 40 or whatever this age is, then they're still in victim mindset.
That's true.
And they're like, oh, this happened, that happened, all this stuff. They're complaining, they're not creating. So if you have an open mindset, then you're realizing all the things that happened did not happen to you. They happened for you, and they happened for you so that they could serve as an educational moment so that you can then actually elevate and evolve and keep going. But the average person, what I see in my mind is somebody sitting at a table and begging for cake, saying, man, I really wish I had red velvet cake. I really wish I had. And so they're just sitting there. They're going through all the years and just sitting there saying, I wish I had a red velvet cake. But then when you get here at 40, and we're like, okay, do you want to wipe your slate clean? What do you want to do? Well, I always wanted red velvet cake, and I never had red velvet cake. Well, sir, what are you talking about? You don't see the Hershey's powder over here, the eggs? You had everything right here. All you had to do is put it together to actually make the cake. But there are a lot of people who don't recognize that.
You think some people give up at 40?
Absolutely. Because they figure, well, I'm 40 now, and then they buy into the I'm old now. I'm getting older, now after 40, come 50, then 60, then what else? I'm going to be retired. So they buy into that mindset where society does a wonderful job making you believe that. I see people all the time talking about, oh, my body aching at 40, my 40-year-old knees don't work. And I'm like, why are you buying into this stuff? Your body is going to work as long as you take care of it, like a car, right? So think about the people who have those classic cars.
Yeah.
They don't sit here and say, oh, the car don't work no more because it's a 1979 and we in 2022. Well, if they have been maintaining the car, if they've been, polishing all the stuff that car people do, if they've been doing that, they could crank that baby up and go. So the same thing with your body. So but 40, 41 really is like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can see all of this.
Oh man,
all of this.
But now at 41, you wait till you get to 45.
Oh my God.
And you gonna be, oh my God, at 50, you're gonna be like, oh
yeah.
I told you at 40, 45, I think you're gonna be able to walk the walls.
I'm ready for it. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Just keep growing and glowing. All right. So today is Wednesday. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Transitions. Mr. Henderson and myself are live on Wednesdays in the midday every week. And on Saturday in the AM at 9 a.m., the Understanding Money Show kicks off.
Yes.
9 a.m. You can catch that on Facebook or YouTube at the Henderson Financial Group's YouTube page. That's at 9 a.m. And then at 10:15, Understanding Money Part 2 is live with Mr. Henderson and James T. Thomas. All right. So you have not done so already, be sure to share this video. Don't worry about if they comment back, if they respond back, they may ignore it, but they've seen it. Share the video, give us a thumbs up, and make sure that you follow and subscribe to our pages. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace. Da, da, da.